Hello. Today we'll be continuing with chapter 1 for Nerus. So last time, both Elisa and Bitey were out on the campus of the church last night, and they found somebody walking through the campus. They were going inside what I believe was the place where the abbot stayed. So Bitey followed the man in there, but somehow he lost him. I think it was some kind of scuffle. I'm not quite sure, but Bitey lost the man. So the next day, they went inside an office and they found a dead body. And while they were looking over the dead body, Elisa saw this big ball light. It was kind of like a light. It was a flashing light saved in a ball, and it expanded and it exploded in the office. So Elisa saw and felt the explosion. He asked Bitey about it, and he told Elisa that he didn't know what she was talking about. He didn't see anything. So apparently Elisa has some kind of ability or power. At least that's what I think. Because there's no way Bitey could have not heard and saw that. There's no way that there's no way he didn't notice the ball, the big huge ball of light, and there's no way he did not feel the explosion. So apparently that must mean that Elisa has some power and that she can see certain things and experience certain things that others cannot. Because Bitey didn't experience anything. He didn't see it. He didn't experience any of that. He didn't see the huge ball of light, and he didn't see the explosion. He didn't feel it. So while all that happened for Elisa, for Bitey, nothing happened. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with chapter 1 and see where this murder goes. This murder mystery goes. I think they're starting to have some progress now on the murder. You see how much progress they make as we continue. Yeah, that's the same guy I saw the other night. Bastard had an ugly as hell chin, let me tell you. I can't believe this. A small group had congregated outside the abbot's study. Maggie, Bitey, and Elisa had been the first ones to arrive. Santiago and Remigio had been called shortly after, and Bitey had requested the presence of one of the hunters, as they were the ones guarding the abbots last night. Maggie was wiping her teary eyes with her handkerchief, and Santiago and Remigio had just finished looking at the scene inside the study. Bitey had already informed them of what happened during that escapade the night before. He had told Elisa he would deal with the situation, so she watched in silence. Indeed, losing our abbot in an accident is one thing, but having one from another church die here and murdered nevertheless. Bitey, can we trust that what you told us was the truth? Yes. I expected a more elaborate response, especially considering you broke the rules to come here last night. I don't like what this guy is getting to. You can be pedantic if you want, but that isn't going to get you anywhere. We have no reason to lie to you. That is, if we assume that you aren't more involved with this than you are letting on. For the seventh sake. Elisa took one step towards Santiago, but before she could even come up with a defense, Maggie spoke up. Santiago. Although there were still tears coming out of her eyes, Maggie's voice was enough to make the possum jump where he stood. He pressed his lips together and looked at the woman, trying to maintain a composed look. Perhaps you have forgotten, so I will remind you. I was the one that invited Buddy here to investigate the crime you denied at the time. If Buddy is here as an accomplice, then what does that say about me? Are you trying to imply I had any involvement with Giorgio's demise? Or Williams? No, of course not, Maggie. Please refrain from speaking if you don't have anything of value to add. Stop fucking up always, Santiago. The security chief's cheeks puffed as he looked down and bit his lips. Shortly after, he adjusted his posture before returning to his usual mocking expression. Alicia imitated his smile, her eyes still on him. Santiago shook his head and ignored her. Anyway, we will need to call the police now. I'll go do the honors, I guess. Please do. What are you going to do, Buddy? It's better we don't touch the crime scene before the police arrive. I'll question Miss. Buddy turned to the feline, doing a drawn out gesture with his hand. Layla. Right, Miss Layla here. Maggie stared at the leopard, her eyes searching for something. Why are you in the hotel? She's your boss. She wanted to come, but the other abbots caught wind that something bad happened. Then they noticed one of them was missing and they put two and two together. Since she is getting an earful from them, I had to come to her place. I see. With that out of the way, I believe we should proceed. Is there anywhere we may carry an interview without getting interrupted, Maggie? After looking around briefly, the human woman nodded toward a door right next to the abbot's study. Just take that room. It's all yours until this is over. Very generous of you. Thank you. Layla, Alicia, come in. This room had a layout very similar to the abbot's study next door, with walls lined in a similar wallpaper and red drapes hiding the windows and wooden furniture. The difference was that everything seemed to be in perfect order here. There wasn't even a single document, or even a decoration on top of the desk. Maybe this was Maggie's old study. Buddy closed the door, put one hand in his pocket and gestured toward the couch and chairs on one of the sides of the room. Let's take a seat, girls. The hunters took one of the red chairs while Buddy and Alicia settled down on the couch. Layla was trying to appear calm, but the way she grasped her hands together, visiting every once in a while, betrayed some nervousness. I remember her from the trip. She was almost crawling up the walls by the last day, a very energetic girl. I don't see her having anything to hide. It wouldn't hurt to relax and listen for now. Buddy reached inside his coat and retrieved a tiny notebook and a pen. He laid back, the couch creaking under his weight, and got ready to take notes. Okay, what can I help you with? We understand you and the other hunters were hired as bodyguards for the abbots. Last night you were patrolling the lower floor of the dormitory, correct? That's right. I think I saw you two on your way out. Buddy smiled and stopped writing on a notebook for a moment. Oh? We were trying to be sneaky. You guys didn't do a very good job. I'm surprised you managed to follow Mr. Giorgio into the church without him noticing. That's why Alicia went in first. You see, she got lighter steps. Did you see someone else exit the dormitory that night? What about the dead abbot? Lydia's ears perked up and she stumbled on her words before answering. Mighty squinted at the hyper before going back to taking notes. That's a strange thing. Last time I saw Mr. Giorgio, he went to sleep. After dinner, he went into Mr. Brandis' cell. Then he came back and said he was tired, so he went to his cell. Brandis, the abbot attempt, and no one saw him leave after that. I asked Hartwell if she did. She told me She didn't. Besides you and Hartwell, who else came here for his job? Oh, just the two of us and Jezreel. I made to talk to him before coming here, but I couldn't find him, and that vampire with the resting bitch face was being really pussy. Buddy snorted. I see. Tell me, did you have a chance to visit the victim's cell? That's one of the first things we did when the vampire came to us. Was the window open? Lena blinked, bringing her hand to her chin briefly before dropping it back down. Alicia leaned forward, arms crossed and resting on her legs. Yes, the window was open. Do you think Mr. Giorgio might have exited through there to avoid us noticing? It's likely. Body paused to scribble something. Next, what was your relationship with the victim? It was all professional. Hartwell might have known him better, but this is my first time meeting most of the Abbotts. I think it's the same for poor Josue. Very well, let's do the following. I need to find this Josue and bring him to me, or at least talk to him. Is it necessary? I think the Abbot exited through the window. I can't imagine Josue saw him and didn't mention it to us. I'd like to have his testimony for good measure. Perhaps he will surprise us. Alicia's eyes narrowed. Do you not want us to meet him? Well, Josue is an excellent hunter, he is. In that instant, the three of them turned their heads to the stage floor. They had heard footsteps and voices outside. Alicia had decided to not pay any mind and steer the conversation back into course. He's an excellent hunter, but he doesn't do well with people. What was it that he called it? Social anxiety? He's got that thing, which makes him very bad at talking, especially with strangers. I'm sorry to hear that, but we'll need to see him regardless. He just needs time to prepare. I'll talk to him on your behalf in the meantime. I guess that'll do. Any other questions? No, you're free to go. I suspect the town's police just arrived at the scene. We should go out and introduce ourselves. Hopefully, they're feeling more cooperative now. Body said with the same level of enthusiasm as a teenager is about to get dragged to a family gathering in some remote location. You go ahead, Layla. I want to talk with Body alone. Oh, okay. I'll see you again soon. Leopard jumped off her seat and walked up to the door. As she reached for the now she let out a loud "oh" and looked back to the duo. I had completely forgotten. Before I saw you as the dormitory, I saw that possum guy come in. I see. Thank you, Layla. We'll look into it. The feline gave them a big smile and excused herself out. Alicia turned to the crocodile, who was pulling the notebook and pen back inside his coat pocket. Did something trouble you, Alicia? Well, what do you think about this case so far, Body? It's interesting, that's for sure. Things are starting to spice up. The hybrid woman sighed, a tired frown on her face. Right. Listen, don't you think this might turn out to be way too big for just the two of us? What makes you say that? Two Abbotts are dead. It's unlikely that it is a coincidence. Someone must be targeting them. It wouldn't be surprising if a politically motivated group were behind this. In that case, we should be outnumbered. There's a chance there's a single perpetrator behind us. Yes, but even then it's likely this case will devolve into a bigger accident. Is this too much for one private detective and his assistant to handle? So you want to back off on the case? I'm not saying we have to, not right now. But if the police refuse to cooperate, I'm afraid I'm not backing out of this one, Alicia. Call detective intuition, but I can feel it in my bones. There's something special about this case, and I tend to crack it open. But I understand if you are worried. You are a grown-up now. I'm not going to force you to stick around if you don't want to. You know you do not need to worry about me. I already survived a lot of crazy stuff on my own before we started working together. I still guess you say that. So you think you can take on both the police and whoever's behind this? Yes. Fine. Let's go now. One moment. Now that we are speculating about the culprit's identity, it's about time we start building a profile for our killer. If it helps, I'm sure it isn't a group that's behind this. Even if there is some secret organization involved in this, they couldn't have any significant numbers here. Lisa blinked and then crossed her arms. Elaborate. Bonnie proceeded to explain that the church of cement kept track of everyone that entered and left the walls. The only entrance to the abbey needed to be opened by the guards from inside and was under constant surveillance, so people sneaking in or out was unlikely. On the second day here, the crocodile and Maggie had gone through the records to look for any irregularities, but the cellarer hadn't noticed anything. Cement Church usually scouted for talented people to study at the abbey rather than taking applications. It was unlikely a large group of people would manage to sneak into the church, even if they fit their backgrounds. At least not as he heard this. I guess the only exceptions to this rule will be the monks that come over from Knox's church. Indeed, you can see now, there's no way to worry about a secret death cult kidnapping and murdering us. It really can't be more than a few people. I say at most, there are 3 people involved. That we'd still be outnumbered, but it's nothing we haven't dealt with before. I guess you were a couple of steps ahead of me. Something else you forgot to tell me? Well, the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced the circumstances point at one of the abbots. The hybrid woman raised an eyebrow and tightened her arms. I know I was guessing this yesterday, but it was just that, a guess. What makes you say this? That wound on the back of William's neck. It just makes no sense that a cement monk would do such a sloppy job. Think about it. This isn't just an art school where they make books. This is where all the discoveries at Knox's church first arrive before they are released to the world at large. Combine that with the infirmary having a greenhouse blessed by Erd. Those are intended for transfigurative potions, but they could be repurposed for more nefarious ends. If a monk wanted to kill William, then they have all the time in the world to research poisons and then mate them with what they have in the infirmary. I don't think the medic would let anyone walk away with a lot of ingredients to make the poison, but given enough time, they could sneak out enough. Are you suggesting the culprit either didn't have the resources or time to do this, so instead they hit him on the back of the head? Correct. It casts suspicion on people that usually wouldn't be in the abbey, the abbots included. What about the Knock monks? They had been here for a few years already. They had plenty of time to enact this plan. I see. I was just guessing yesterday, but now you say it like this, it does sound a bit convincing. Whenever I can, I could go to the greenhouse to see if there are enough ingredients to pull off something like this. Thank you. That would be very helpful. Hopefully the culprit was generous enough to leave some clues behind this time. Ready to go talk with the police? Let's get it over with. A groan came out of the crocodile's throat as he got up from the couch, feigning effort. The two walked outside. A policeman was speaking to Maggie in the hallways while his two partners inspected the Abbey study. When he saw Bonnie and Lisa come out, the beastman officer promptly raised a hand. Thank you, Maggie, but it's about time I get to work. I understand. Don't hesitate to tell me if you need anything. He had been bowed at the duo before returning to the study she was using now. Meanwhile, the policeman approached him, a smile on his face. The bird extended his hand in one sudden motion. Now that he was closer, Alicia could see he was almost as tall and physically imposing as a crocodile, although much thinner. He sure looks like Buddy's type. He doesn't look too happy, though. Buddy was a big man and had a form most humans would find intimidating. With time, he had gotten used to slouching, looking down, and talking with an affable tone, always to come off as friendly in front of most people. Usually he would do the same with the police, but that wasn't the case now. He kept his posture straight, looking down at the officer as his heavy tail slowly undulated on the floor behind him. The policeman didn't react to this. Nice to meet you. You must be Buddy Spiner. I've heard much about you. I see. It's nice to meet you too, mister. The crocodile slowly extended his hand as well. His fingers were tense and his veins in his forearm bulging under the scales. Bernardo. Call me Bernardo. He gripped Buddy's hand rather strongly and shook it. You seem rather tense. Is everything all right? Buddy stared at the bird before resigning with a deep sigh. He deflated like a balloon, dropping his shoulders and relaxed his muscles. No, everything is fine. Despite looking like a bearded vulture, Bernardo moved with the agility you expect from a smaller avian. And with a handshake, the man simply crossed his arms behind his back, his red and silver eyes looking at the crocodile intently. Buddy wiped his hand on his coat and put it back in his pocket. Despite the crocodile's unfriendliness, Alicia didn't detect any attention from Bernardo, not even in his eyes. What is obliviousness or indifference? Let's get straight to business. Allow me to start by apologizing in the name of the local police department. There's going to be achoo. At the very last second, the bird managed to catch the sneeze with the fold of his arm. His smile slowly returned to his face, at time accompanied by a pair of squinting, playful eyes. Excuse me, please. We see I caught the bird flu. Where was I? There was a misfire with a higher-up's judgment, but no need to worry. I'll be leading the investigation in full force now. Buddy snorted and shook his head. There was a smile he reserved for when he was truly baffled. A bit too late, but it's nice to see you finally came. A bit too late, but it's nice to see you came around. I'm hoping you will have at least the courtesy to let us continue participating in the investigation. Yes, naturally. Both Alicia and the crocodile waited for the bird to continue, but he didn't. After a few seconds, Alicia cleared her throat and spoke. Okay, what's the catch? Ah, you must be Alicia. Excuse my manners here. No need for a handshake. Please just answer the question. Well, there's no catch. There's at least one murder on the loose right now. Someone died because the police failed to take action, and now it's up to me to rectify this failure. I believe you and Buddy will be precious assets in achieving this. From what I've heard, you two are a formidable duo. Damn right. Buddy puffed out his chest. Lisa just looked back and forth between the two men. But that's enough about that. I'm glad to have you on board. Later, I would like to hear about your findings over a nice glass of wine, but for now, let's see if my comments discover anything, shall we? Right. The study looked the same as it did last night, except for the two human policemen working. One of them was taking pictures of the room, while the other knelt in front of the corpse. Georgia had been cut out of most of his clothes. Judging from the two gloves hanging from the pockets of the man next to him, he had just finished his preliminary autopsy. Looked like we were a while on time. Do you find anything? The human got on his feet, resting a hand on his hip. Lisa and Buddy introduced themselves, and then he gave his report. Nothing he can't tell at a glance. The cut on his neck is his only recent injury. Do you know where the perpetrator attacked him from? It's hard to tell at this stage, but in my opinion, he was attacked from behind. Someone snuck up on him and inflicted a fatal wound before he realized what was going on. Didn't have a chance to struggle. One of the chances it was the culprit that put his lantern on the table. And if they surprised Georgia like that, they must have grabbed the lantern and put it there. Last night, I and Alicia didn't hear it fall, and it certainly doesn't look damaged. It wouldn't hurt to inspect it for prints, would it? It wouldn't hurt to inspect it for prints, wouldn't it? And another thing, we found this on him. The police produced a small plastic bag. Inside was a gray metallic key. I believe this is how he got in here last night. Very well. If you are done with your preliminary report, I'd like you to move the corpse to the morgue. I believe all of us are aching to search the study. Sure, we'll need the equipment to analyze him further anyhow. Hey, Andy, go get the stretcher. We're moving out. Bernardo helped the officers put the body on a stretcher and covered it with a white sheet. They had some trouble going through the door as rigor mortis had already settled in with the corpse's arms outstretched to either side. Afterward, the bearded vulture turned the body and Alicia, offering each a pair of white gloves. Near hand, Bernard smiled while he had said something funny. While seeing body were putting the gloves on, Alicia frowned and looked up at Bernardo. Excuse me, but are you sure we can trust those two? Are you sure we can trust those two? And then Enrique, naturally. With the way the police have treated this case so far, I'm a bit skeptical. I don't mean any offense, but do we know for certain they won't butcher the investigation on purpose? You suspect someone wants to interfere with the investigation, don't you? Yes. You don't have anything to worry about. I would trust those two of my life. There have been rumors in the station after the investigation of William's death was suddenly called off. I don't know whether they are true or not, but I figured that I couldn't afford to bring just anyone for this. I guarantee you those two are men with integrity, handpicked by me for this operation. They won't be swayed from the duty to live with justice. I see. Are you done? Let's get started. Of course. Giorgio must have come here last night for a reason. Let's figure out what that was. Or at the very least, the culprit got ahead of us in finding out. Lisa looked around, her hand on her chin. Okay, where do we start? We're to search for clues. Start at the desk. What about the desk? It's the most obvious spot, but maybe something is hidden in plain sight there. The three inspected the desk. Bernardo started rummaging through the jungle of papers and miscellaneous that was the top. Meanwhile, Lisa and Bobby searched the drawers. The hybrid suggested it would be easier to remove them all together and empty the contents somewhere else. That way they could also check for any false bottom too. They ended up doing an embodied study to avoid potentially contaminating the crime scene. They didn't find anything remarkable except for a very expensive package of cigars. They returned to the Abbott study after. Got a light. Buddy held one of the cigars between two fingers, an impious smile on his face. Lisa shook her head while Bernardo stared at him, head tilted sideways. I do have a lighter, but maybe we should leave it for when we were outside. Here's a joke. There's nothing here. Any luck on your side? I inspected the desk from top to bottom. Didn't find anything unusual. Guess it was a bit too obvious. Okay, what's next? Bookshelves. Hey, buddy, come help me out here. Oh, are we looking for a secret search? Maybe a secret passage will open if we pull the right bug. A secret passage to where? This room borders the hallway, the outside, and 2 other studies. There is nowhere secret to go. What about down? No. Anyway, I want to move this, but see if there's anything behind. Body looked down and shrugged. Doesn't look like it was moved recently, but it's worth a shot. The crocodile gestured to Alicia to step back, grabbed the bookshelf from one of the sides and pulled it with around as much ease as when opening the door. There wasn't anything on the wall behind nor on the back part of the bookshelf. Alicia grunted and then got on her knees, feeling around the lower part of the bookshelf. Under the lowest row there was a chunk of carved wood, tall enough someone could use it to hide something inside if it was hollow. But no matter how much she touched it, nothing seemed to come off or open it. Alicia then put her hand under herself and felt around the ball of it to no avail. She got back up, letting out another irritated grunt. I was almost certain this would be it. Right now we checked the one behind the desk. I got a much better feeling about that one. I agree, let's. This time when Body moved itself, something caught the crocodile's eye. He seemed to be taken aback for an instant, then a small smile started forming on the corner of his mouth. What is it? Did you find anything? Yep. There's a safe on this wall, but there's one problem. Oh, don't tell me. Alicia walked around the crocodile to take a peek. There was a black and gold metallic door interrupting the wallpaper, open ever so slightly. The hyper clicked her tongue and Body reached out to open it completely. Yes, it looks like we are too late. It's empty. Damn. I was afraid this was going to be the case. But let's not get disheartened, knowing the safe exists could help us arrive at a breakthrough later down the road. Indeed, there's always something strange about this safe. How come? Think about it carefully. How did the culprit open it? Well, they must have known the code somehow. Oh, if they knew the code, then chances are they already figured out other details about this safe, such as its location. And even if they didn't know exactly where it was, why did they thrash the room? They only need to check the walls on any spot where you'd be able to fit one of these. They had no reason to mess with their desk or the books. Curious, perhaps our killer was looking for something besides the contents of the safe. Or maybe Giorgio lived longer than we figured and made this mess himself. Body scratched the side of his head, eyes on the floor. The killer could have done it as a way to confuse us too. If so, our killer had quite an erratic behavior pattern. Let's be extra careful and search the study as thoroughly as possible, just in case. Any other ideas? Windows. The windows gave a pleasant view of the garden in front of the church, but there wasn't much else to say about them. Lisa imagined the culprit inside the study last night, watching from the window as he and Body passed in front of the church, and then Giorgio minutes later. She decided to look for signs someone had intruded through them, but there was nothing. No dirt, mud, no grass on the floor nearby or the cell. Not much to see here. I'll search elsewhere. I think I'm out of ideas. What about you two? I'm in the same boat. I'm assuming the other 2 cops checked the floor before we arrived. Correct. They found some hair and dirt, but nothing pointing at anyone in particular. If we are done here, we should move out. We need to discuss our next step. The bird started making his way to the hallways. Body and Lisa walked after him. ceiling. Actually, before we go, there's one more thing I want to check here. What? The hybrid turned around, looking up. The two men followed her gaze to the ceiling of the study. Do you see anything unusual? Can't say I do. Elisa scratched her chin. She was the only one capable of seeing it, while a star-shaped spot had been left behind by that fire that exploded last night. Something was eating away at her mind, the same nagging feeling where a word is at the tip of one's tongue. Maybe there was something special about that spot. Buddy, can you help me up? What are we doing? Here, right under where the corpses was. Help me reach the ceiling. Buddy looked over to Bernardo. The police officer gave him a thumbs up. The crocodile sweated and helped Alicia. In another contest, Buddy might have found the idea of giving the hybrid a piggy ride if she was some overgrown child, amusing. But right now, he was perplexed. Having the boost she needed, Alicia looked at the Aston store closely and then slowly reached out to it. Her eyes narrowed as she saw the black spot slowly become translucent. Something was moving beyond them. Images. That's weird. Where's this breeze all of a sudden? Lisa wondered as a cold wind made her pale hair dance above her. Soon she noticed the black spots were getting tinier and tinier, and so was the ceiling. The only thing she realized what had happened and a surprised gasp escaped her mouth. But rather than landing on the hard floor, she fell on a pair of soft and feathery arms. Bernardo allowed her to get back on her feet. Alicia fixed her tie and then crossed her arms, looking at one of the nearby windows of the garden. Are you all right? Yeah, what happened? You jumped and kicked me in the head while at it. I got startled. She didn't make any other effort to explain herself. Buddy's gaze turned unusually soft, and his shoulders deflated. Bernardo tilted his head as he observed the two of them. Well, did you discover anything? The look in the crocodile's eyes made her stomach boil, but she couldn't understand why. It felt as if it was tugging at something buried deep within her memories, and it was making her angry. This damn Abby had her on edge. Alicia understood very little what was going on here and had just witnessed an unexpected murder. She was stressed, that was all. No, I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. I'm sorry for making us lose time. Let's move on now. Yeah. Sorry for the wait. I'm back. Bernardo entered the study with a bottle of wine in one hand and 3 glasses in the other. Bonnie and Alicia hadn't even been talking to each other while the bird was absent, submerged in their own thoughts. Still, the wine soon elevated their spirits. They sat down around the little table in the same configurations as when they had interviewed Layla. Bonnie couldn't help but smile as he took the first sip out of his glass. I needed this. I imagine these last few days have been stressful. I wouldn't know. I spent most of them on a sip. Did you arrive recently? Yesterday, actually. Bernardo nodded with interest and took another sip from his glass. Having a This wasn't easy. He needed to throw his head back and carefully pour the wine down his throat. It looked like he could easily screw up every time he drank, but he never spilled one drop. At least I couldn't help but admire his speak skills. It was pretty boring here at first. Boring? I'm a guy that needs stimulation. No police and no one wanted to talk makes for a very dull investigation. I see. I hope you enjoy yourself more now. A bit. Molly said with an impish smile. Alicia lasted only half a glass before she started feeling hot and a bit dizzy. The crocodile drank her leftover wine. So what did you discover these last few days? Let's see, where to start. The detective proceeded to narrate what had happened ever since his arrival, including the events from yesterday. Bernardo reclined on his chair, taking a sip every once in a while. Very well. As for our next step, what I suggest we do is try to determine who was the first person to arrive at the church that night and how they got inside. Wouldn't it be the same way Giorgio got inside? By stealing a key, that is. Perhaps, but there is a detail I'm sure Maggie must have forgotten to bring up. We are all ears. It's about the staff, and we're the ones that are locally known as the Abbott's Inner Circle. I'm talking about Maggie, Santiago, Bennett, Amelia, and Tom. These five have been working here for as long as William, and he trusted them with his life. And he allowed them one little perk. Master keys. Precisely. I will be tracking the origin of the key we found on Giorgio's person and investigate if any other key was stolen and where it happened. So Alicia and I will be looking into the master keys matter. Yes. Well, Maggie is my client, so let's exclude her from the get-go. I believe we can agree at the very least she's innocent. The bird closed his eyes briefly. Yes, you say this because she's your client, but after knowing her for years, I guarantee she doesn't fit the killer's profile. There's this erratic yet cold-blooded character to these crimes. Maggie doesn't have it in her to pull off something like this. Unfortunately, I can't say I'm so sure about the others. Perfect. We need to talk to the other four then. The other three, actually. 3? I'd like you to leave Amelia to me. Considering what I will be doing, it would be more efficient if I am the one to speak to her. She's the one in charge of Abby's key box, after all. We will exchange our findings later, so please don't worry. Sadly, Santiago, Ben, and Tom for us. Who will we start with? I say Santiago. I feel I'm close to figuring him out, and with the stress he must be under, he should be more exposed than ever. Sounds good. By the way, about those letters, you can keep them for now. I doubt the culprit was foolish enough to leave any clue behind in them, but don't let anyone touch them. I'll have my colleagues analyze them once they are done with their current tasks, just in case. Understandable. I'll go now. I'll get Santiago on my way out. I don't believe he will be too cooperative if you approach him first. Neither Bobby nor Alicia had any objection. While waiting for the parson to show up, Alicia sat on a chair in front of the desk, watching the crocodile went over his notes. Hey, buddy? Yes. What do you think of the policeman, or Bernardo? He's been incompetent so far. I'll give him that. If only he and his men had acted earlier. But he didn't sound very happy to see him earlier. Not until he brought out the wine anyway. I appreciate the police are doing something now, but at the end of the day, this is damage control. Didn't you hear him? He was talking about the police's duty right after they let another murder happen. What a joke. I guess you might be right about that. Silence fell over the room, only to be shattered by a knocking on the door. Lisa hurried back to the couch while Bobby shouted to come in. Santiago's smirk from yesterday was gone by now, replaced by a frown and a sharp stare. Thank you for coming. Take a seat. The passenger told his expression wizard. Such a bad state of affairs we found ourselves in, is it not? Indeed. Maybe some wine will help. The crocodile gestured toward the half-empty bottle on the table. The possum showed his teeth and averted his gaze. In any case, we were hoping you'd help us shed some light on the recent murders. Can't hurt. When you hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up. Are you upset about something? Ah, yes, very observant. What police school did you graduate from? I did not continue studying after high school. Anyway, yes, in case it isn't obvious, what happened this morning will ruin my reputation. Yes, I knew from the start William had been killed. Anyone with at least two eyes would have noticed, but what was I supposed to do? Santiago rolled his eyes and gesticulated so hard Alicia felt a little breeze. One could almost see him fume from his fluffy ears. We were security guards weren't equipped to carry out any sort of investigation, and then the police showed up and against all odds ruled the damn thing an accident. Do you know what I thought when I saw that? The crocodile stopped whining for a second and turned to the hybrid. What did he think, Alicia? That he didn't want to get involved with this. Exactly, the police themselves refused to investigate the murder of an abbot. I figured something more dangerous than your everyday murder was going on, so I decided to play dumb, lay low. But now another victim appears, another abbot from a different church. And then it isn't just you two sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, but the police as well. I must look like a complete clown. I'm not going to deny that, but helping us might help you get your record at least somewhat straight. And probably detectives like me might not seem like much to you, but I know people. I could put on a good word for you if you cooperate. Let's rewind a little. You say you knew William had been killed. How are you so sure? Because the autopsy report, yeah, of course. Were you aware he had been threatened? Threatened? No touching. Body says he produced the two letters Maggie had found. He saw the parts in the envelopes and read the content out loud for him. Damn it, he still told me about these. Moving on, what about the others in the Abbott circle? Did they suspect there had been a murder too? We haven't talked about it, but I believe all of us know the truth to some degree. Although I can't speak for them as to why they are keeping quiet, I feel their reasons must be similar to mine. Body continued taking notes. Meanwhile, Lisa leaned forward, looking at Santiago straight in the eye. Yesterday we stopped by the kitchen to grab a snack. Tom and an old woman were there. Yes, that was Amelia. She seemed to be there too. Color him. They were talking. He was about to tell her about something that was worrying him, but she interrupted him. I found it strange. Do you know anything about what's up with that? Santiago's mouth hung slightly open for an instant, his tongue resting between the edges of his teeth. For a few years now, Tom hasn't been himself, and this last week has sent him over the edge. Emilio looks out for him when he's going through one of his rougher periods, such as this one. Let's start a few years back. I don't think it's related to the case. Okay. Next, I want you to tell me about what you doing the nights William and Giorgio died. William died more than a week ago. Can't say my memory is clear. You can start with Giorgio if you want. Well, let's see. Santiago brought one hand up to his chin. His voice turned monotone as he recalled the events of last night. It was a cold night, and, as usual, I stayed up until nearly midnight. Despite not wanting to get involved, I was on edge and couldn't help but pay extra attention to Monks' dormitory. I didn't see anyone exit it before midnight. Did anyone see anything unusual that night? This morning, one of my boys told me he thought he had seen some movement near the cloister. Nothing happened after a few minutes, so he decided to continue his round. He thought he saw two people. I figured it was you. Had he spotted us a bit earlier, stay long enough to see Giorgio coming, he might still be alive today. Such an unlucky fate, isn't it? In any case, no one spotted the killer as far as I know. When I finally returned to my cell, I dropped on the bed and didn't move from there until Remigio shook me awake. He looked to the side, showing his teeth for a grimace as he said this last part, but it didn't last long before his face softened. But I suppose it wasn't nearly as bad as the night William died. Before a grumpy vampire shaking me awake to screams and so much smoke I could barely see him breathe. Surprisingly, no one else died that night. Remigio helped. I'm certain he would have saved William too had the flames not originated from his cell, and had his head not been split open by then. In any case, I don't know what to tell you. We weren't ready to deal with such a large fire. Had it not been for the Knox months, we would have been forced to evacuate, let the entire place go up in flames. Is there anything else that you can tell us about that night? I'd like to say there is, but I and my boys didn't see anything. Body's pen came to a sudden stop. He remained immobile for an instant. Elisa saw him a curious side glance. Did you or any of the guards see anything strange before Giorgio's death? I mean, only those two groups, you and the guards. A glimmer of hesitation appeared in Santiago's eyes, but he answered nonetheless. No, nothing was reported to me that I haven't told you already. I see. Bobby wrote down a single sentence. Santiago's desire to read the crocodile's dose was plain to see in his eyes. For instance, Alicia sympathized with him. Let's focus on something different. Did William have any enemies, anyone that wanted him dead? I'd be lying if I say there weren't plenty of people like that. But within these walls, not a chance. What about the other abbots? Would any of them have anything to gain from his or even Giorgio's demise? The parson recoiled, his mouth hanging open for an instant. I don't think so. I'm baffled at the idea, if I have to be honest. Buddy nodded. Last question. Do you know about the safe in William's study? Oh, you discovered that. Yes, of course, everyone in the circle knows about it. Santiago smiled slightly as he lay back and crossed his arms until he suddenly remembered something. I guess Maggie didn't know. It wasn't that William hid it from her particularly. We just wanted to always be here when William had been. We just wanted to always be here when William had it installed. He never mentioned it to her. Did you know about its content? No, not even we were privy to that information. Interesting. We were done here then. We'd be kind enough to send Ben on our way. I suppose I can get someone to do that. A few minutes later, after Santiago left, someone else knocked. This time it was someone Elisa hadn't seen before, a short and colorful frog. He was already rubbing his hands together, his eyes stabbing between her and the detective as he sat down. Hello, Ben. I don't believe you and my sister have met. No, we haven't. I'm Alicia. I'm Ben. I work as a consultant here at the church. What kind of consulting? Public relations, scouting, projects beyond the walls. That kind of business. How has your business been going? Ben opened his mouth. Then he lay back on the chair, his butt slightly sliding off of it. He stayed like that. He stayed like what, with a vacant expression. Bobby put his pen and notebook down on the table. Elisa, could you go get him a glass of water? Why not wine? No. There's no need for any of that. The frog spoke slowly as if trying to emphasize every word. I was hoping you wouldn't ask about how business has been going. Are things rough? Yes, in a way it feels like we aren't near as much anymore. But when it comes to scouting, there has never been a shortage of people wanting to come study here. So it's not all bad. Still losing terrain on the outside world is bad, financially speaking. And I can't imagine it getting better. In any case, if this related to the case at all, oh no, excuse me, I noticed you were nervous, so I wanted to make sure to make some small talk to help you relax. I suppose I bossed it. Lisa looked at Body as she showed the far sympathetic smile. She had seen that expression many times in the past, and it never was genuine. The crocodile prepared himself to take notes again. Let's get to the point then. What can you tell us about the nights William and Giorgio died? Ben proceeded to explain that on both occasions he worked at his study for most of the day, went to have dinner, and after that went straight to bed. However, once he got to this last part, he finally pushed himself up and leaned forward, giving the duo a meaningful look. You see, Mr. Detective, I'm very light on sleep. You don't say? Every night is the same. Santiago comes back from himself. The racket he makes jolts me awake. Then I get up, open my door, I look outside of the corridor, and I see him, his small silhouette, passing by the moonlit windows on his way to his cell. But that wasn't all the nights of the murders. Last night I barely caught any sleep. Interesting. Do you happen to have vivid sense of hearing, Ben? No, but sense and energy easily get to me. I see. Continue. The night William died, after Santiago came back, might have been minutes or hours. I got woken up again. I heard the front door open, it creaked in a specific way. And someone talking. Did William have a conversation with his assailant? I went back to sleep to what I didn't realize was the sound of William being brutally murdered until I noticed the fire, of course. There was a lot of whining and screaming. Santiago was the only one that remained inside, and Remigio had to go rescue him. He's very, very tired when he gets out of work. What about the night Giorgio died? He said he barely caught any sleep. Indeed, lots of moons that night. You and Giorgio sneaking around. The hunters doing their shifts, monks being routed in their cells. And the monks' dormitory is a bigger building, so things weren't as clear. But I can tell you something interesting. It was before I heard you leave. I know when you two left because you were the only ones to use the hallway on the second floor. There was this thud outside and then a scream. And outside, of course, Body suddenly stops, writing. He raises his eyes to Ben, playing with the pen between his fingers. This is the first time we hear about this. Is there anything else you can tell us about this scream? He had started imagining who it could have been. He had hunters now. They were keeping an eye on the building. After all, Layla didn't miss anything of the sort, but maybe if we ask her about this, it'll jog her memory. Maybe. Take this, L. The hybrid woman raised one eyebrow. Body handed her his notebook before standing up. Consider this new information concerning that Layla has taken so long to get back to us. I'll go see if I can find her. Could you continue the interrogation meanwhile? As he spoke, Lisa read over what he had last written in the notebook. Sure, make it snappy though. Lisa sat on a quiet, noticeable expression. Body left on the couch and carried on. About the night William died, you heard someone else enter the dormitory and then leave, and the Santiago came back. Is that right? So I fell asleep before I heard anyone leave. And are you sure it was the entrance door that you heard and not any of the other doors downstairs? Absolutely. I wouldn't mistake its creep for any other. If the killer came to the dormitory after Santiago, it would mean no one in William's inner circle could be it. Can we take his word for it? Okay, second question. Did you hear Giorgio open his cell window and leave? My current cell is on the upper floor. Like yours, while Giorgio's is downstairs. With it being so far and all the noise last night, I couldn't make out anything concrete coming from there. I see. Lisa shook her head as he wrote. Anything else you would like to add? No, I don't think so. Let's wait for Body then. He's near. A few seconds later, Lisa heard footsteps outside of the study. Then the door opened, She moved aside to let Buddy sit back down at his spot. Thank you for waiting. Now I'm afraid I lied to you. I didn't go look for Layla. Did you notice? Yes. How come? Well, first I noticed you went and knocked on, I believe, Maggie's door. You came in and exited a minute later. Then you went the other way to the library, I think. I know someone used the staircase. I assume it was you, but I could be wrong. Anyway, you came back down at some point. You knocked on the door of the Abbott study, and you came back here. Damn, you're good. Guess you weren't exaggerating after all. Well, even he got his limits. By night, as he quickly went over the notes Elisa had made. Then he faced the fog and lay back on the couch, his butt slipping off slightly. This is very useful, Ben. Can't thank you enough. My pleasure. Before we set you free, two last things. Buddy showed him the two threatening letters starting with the envelopes and then reading them out loud. What is this? We oversee these a few days before he died. Any idea who sent them based on enemy has? So I don't know. Santiago said he knew William had enemies. Good for him. Ben didn't comment any further. Buddy took the letters back in his pocket and inquired about the safe in William's study. Much like Santiago, Ben acknowledged knowing about the safe, but asserted he didn't know anything about its contents. Have you seen Tom today? I did this morning. He was vibrating harder than Maggie's alarm clock at 4 in the morning. Ugh. Let's go look for him. I could use stopping by the kitchen while all this going on. You missed breakfast. Good point. If that's all you need, I'll be on my way. Ben stepped off the chair and made his way out. Buddy stood up and started going over his notes again, eyebrows furrowed. The hybrid woman stared at him impassively. He said many interesting things. Indeed, he did. His senses are very impressive. I heard a transformative potion that had the rare side effect of diminishing or augmenting one's senses. But it's the first time I met someone like that. But I think he's still hiding something. It's possible. He's very nervous at first, but after he caught our attention with his testimony, he held onto that momentum and didn't let go. He was relieved we got interested in that part and didn't ask other questions. Why didn't you press him? Crocodile let out, snoring, his mouth curving into a playful smile. We don't know for sure that he has a secret. He could just be an awkward guy. But if he is hiding something, I want to try to figure out what that is by myself first. Buddy and Alicia were welcomed to the kitchen by a commotion around the closest door. Santiago was talking to someone on the other side while Amelia and a few monks watched. Buddy couldn't help but sigh when he noticed the bearded, voiced beastman from earlier was there too. An even bigger sigh escaped him when Bernardo was the first one to notice and approached them. Do you happen to be tired, detective? No. What's happening here? I'm not certain as I and Amelia just arrived. It looks like Tom locked himself up in the closet. Santiago has been trying to talk to him, but he's not answering. Was he already here when you arrived? Of course. Alicia pulled on Buddy's sleeve. Excuse us, Buddy, come here. They took a few steps back and showed the bird their backs. Lisa saw him a glance before getting on her toes to whisper something to the crocodile. I think it's as I feared. Santiago tried to get here before us to warn Tom, but it backfired. It's possible. We should try to get him out of the closet as soon as possible. Who knows what Santiago is telling him right now? Do you notice that he lowered his voice when we came in? Or is he just asked to kick the door down? If it's necessary, I don't think it would be. Buddy fixed his coat before advancing toward the crowd. Bernardo moved aside for him and followed close behind with his hands behind his back. The crocodile didn't need to say a word for the monster to disperse once they realized he was drawing closer. He stopped next to Amelia, who was looking up at him with a hand on her chest, but it was Santiago to whom he directed his attention. "What are you waiting for? Open the door with your master key. Who knows what's going on in there? He might have hurt himself." "Yes, I suppose that's all we can do. Amelia, if you would be so kind." The old woman looked at him perplexed for an instant before handing her a key to Santiago. Everybody snatched it off her hands before the parson had a chance to grab it. "Move, and get ready in case he tries anything funny. You too, Bernardo." "Of course." Bernardo gave him a thumbs up. Santiago clenched his teeth but lowered his head and did as he said. Barney waited for them to be in position before unlocking the door and opening it. Tom, however, remained sitting in the back of the closet, his face pink and a bottle in hand. The crocodile raised a scaly eyebrow before stepping aside. The human man didn't seem to pay any mind beyond a glance as he crouched down in front of him. Santiago and Bernardo peeked from behind the crocodile to the whack of a cook. "What is this? Do you think you can avoid us by pulling a stunt like this?" Tom didn't respond. Barney growled and got up. "This is shameful. Let's take you to your cell. You are not going to make us drag you there, will you?" "No." The cook got on his shaky feet, his gaze still lost nowhere in particular. He took a step and it looked like he was about to slip, but Barney caught him by the shirt much like a cat mother carries her kitten. Santiago approached Tom to offer him his shoulder. "Here. Let's get you to your cell, Tom." What a mess. We're not getting anything useful out of him like this. But this could also be a new opportunity. Lisa didn't waste any time before cooking up a new scheme. Barney took notice of the change in her demeanor before she even spoke. "Excuse me, I have a suggestion. You had mentioned Tom hasn't been feeling well lately, yes? I worked for Earth Trust for a few years before becoming a detective, so I know of some potions we could use to improve his mental state. It should prevent incidents like this from happening again and escalating. Is that so?" Santiago raised an eyebrow. "I could use the herbs at the infirmary to prepare the medicine. I don't need much. Of course, if it will help him, I will accompany Santiago and Tom while you are at it." They split into two groups, with Bernardo escorting Amelia back to her study while the rest walked toward the dormitory. Barney's group was halfway there when they noticed a familiar feline approaching from their destination. Layla jumped with each step and her hands were closed into fists. Lisa wondered if she was planning to punch the crocodile. "There you are, detective. I have big news." She turned to Santiago and Tom, her enthusiasm dying down. "Did something happen?" "We are a bit busy, but do tell. Did you talk with your co-workers?" "Yes, it turns out Josue saw something last night. I think we know who the killer is." "What?" Tom's head bobbed up and down, and Santiago jumped in his surprise. A little woman came out by his throat. "Alicia, make that post as quickly as you can. Call us and tell us what your friend saw. Layla." "Understood. All right." "So, he went out in the middle of ourselves to use the bathroom when..." Barney pushed the scriptorium's door open for being welcomed once again by the sound of sewing machines and page turning as well as a few gazes. He immediately locked on the black and blue figure near the middle of the room. They felt eyes on them as they advanced toward it, especially Bernardo, whose hand was on his holster, ready to draw the cold iron weapon any moment now. "How can I help you today, detective?" They didn't need to see Aloys's face to notice his attention turned toward Bernardo, whose hand was reaching beneath his coat. Yes, Ashley, we need you to come with us. Well, I'm working right now. Is this urgent? You are under suspicion for the murder of Georgia Aloys. I recommend you to come with us peacefully. But his shoulders were tense, and from the way he was closing and opening his hands, he was preparing himself to get attacked at any moment. He was bigger than Aloys, yes, but the boy was still a werewolf. He would be overpowered in an instant if caught with his guard down. I see. Aloys slowly raised his hands to stood up. Bernardo threw body a large pair of handcuffs which he put on the werewolf. Lisa had some doubts the thin-looking material would withstand his strength, but she tried not to think too much of what would happen if they didn't. If you aren't under arrest, but understand, with a werewolf you can't take enough precautions. Indeed, come, we'll talk. Bonnie and Alicia took their spots on the couch, but this time Aloys was across from them. Bernardo stood to the side on the couch, watching. Bernardo, do you want to take a seat? No, thank you. I prefer to stand up. You say so. Barney took out his notebook and returned his attention to the handcuffed wolf. So, Aloys, I imagine you have a good idea why you're here. Someone told us they saw you answer the dormitory last night. He turned a couple of pages in his notebook. They said a giant wolf suddenly fell from the sky and startled them so bad they fainted. It was a hunter, right? I was hoping he'd think he was dreaming. Apparently, that was what he thought. But someone heard him scream, so we know it was real. I see. Indeed, I jumped out my window last night. Why? I needed to go see my teacher. He had something for me. And what was that? Aloys shifted slightly on a chair, his cuffs clinking. Alicia imagined him closing his eyes behind the mask, meditating his next move. Was it something private in nature? The rebel's eyes perked up. You could say that. I truly would prefer to not speak about this. As unfortunate as it is, I'm afraid you don't have the luxury in this situation. One moment. I'd like to bring your attention to something. Hands behind his back, the bearded vulture took a couple of steps forward. As you may know, I spoke with Amelia today. I believe what I learned is relevant to Aloys' situation. I'll lay it down simple. Amelia is who opens and closes the door to a church every day. This includes the door leading to a cloister. She's entrusted by William to keep the keys to the entire place. If a monk needs a key, they need to request it to her. And she has an apprentice who covers for her when she's busy elsewhere. Last morning, Amelia checked the key box in her study and confirmed everything was in order. It was only later, when she was closing before Giorgio was murdered, that she knew the two church's keys were missing. I showed her the key we found on Giorgio's corpse, and she confirmed that was one of them. The culprit must still have the other copy. Assuming they stole the keys at the same time, it sounds like the culprit knew he would be at the church then, doesn't it? So I spoke with the apprentice after. She was in Amelia's study from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and claimed to not have lent those keys out to anyone. However, she admitted there were several intervals during which she was absent. She was meeting with her boyfriend and friends. Barry shook his head. But of course, where were you doing that time, Aloys? At scriptorium working. I imagine it won't be hard to ask around about that. Bernardo, did you ask Amelia about the night William died? Amelia didn't remember seeing anything abnormal that day. Curious. The crocodile lay back, leaning his arms across the couch's back, and closed his eyes. A picture is forming a dormitory where no one can leave except through the lower floor's windows. 2 people, 2 keys, 1 time. A bear waiting for the salmon to jump up the falls. Bernardo tilted his head as he looked at the crocodile. Bobby let out a small giggle and held his notebook between his hands before opening his eyes. Elisa gave the bird a sympathetic look. Alois, I still need to know why you needed to meet your teacher last night. If it is absolutely necessary. The wolf stood up and pointed at the door. It's in my cell. I will show it to you. When they entered the dormitory, a shiver immediately went up Elisa's spine, as if she had been hit by a freeze after getting soaked. She embraced herself, a weary look in her eyes. Hey, is it me or is it cold in here? I think it's you. Maybe you're getting sick. Yeah. Elisa shot the hallway one last glare before proceeding upstairs to Lois' cell. It's inside that drawer. This one? When Bobby crouched to search the drawer, Elisa noticed the crocodile's movements starting to slow down. A strong feeling of nausea quickly settled as the world around the hybrid grew slower, blurrier. It was like watching an out-of-focus video being slowed down till you could see every single frame. Let's help him. Huh? Bernardo and Alois's eyes fall on Alicia. They moved the same way as a crocodile. A loud sparkling sound came from somewhere below them. As the room grew darker and muddier, the woman leaned against the wall, feeling she would slip off the floor any moment now. And then there was a flash and explosion. Alicia shut her eyes and a shriek rang out of her throat. Bobby hit his snout against the chair and knocked it over, trying to turn around. Ouch! Alicia, what's wrong? It was only then that Alicia noticed. Everything was back to normal, and yet she couldn't stop trembling. This fear was unmistakable. It was the same she had felt after Giorgio died. She could almost feel the invisible darkness dripping from the walls, closing in on them. And Bobby, something is wrong. You can see on my belly, whispered Alicia. You don't look well. Wherever it was, she felt once again she was the only one who perceived it. Then on the defeated sigh, Alicia took the werewolf from his arm and sat where he gestured. Bonnie gave her a look she didn't understand, which worried her more than what just happened. But not wanting to get distracted, she quickly went back to the task at hand. Let's see here. Is this box what we were looking for? Yes. Raising an eyebrow, Bonnie opened a small wooden box. Inside there were envelopes both white and yellow. Bonnie grabbed the topmost one and opened it. If I may make a request, will you please not read it out loud? If I consider it appropriate. The crocodile read the letter inside, mumbling the contents for himself. After he seemed to finish, he clicked his tongue and blinked before lowering his hand and squinting at Alois. Is this for real? The werewolf raised his hands to his neck. He struggled to the cuffs, but he managed to bring a collar up from under his bag of his habit. A necklace composed of silver chains and a sizable pendant. The pendant had a silver part that was shaped in a way that reminded the hybrid vaguely of a wolf's mouth, and between those gray mouths was a pitch black gemstone. This gem was the most captivating part by far. There was no light being reflected from its surface. It was a small black hole that absorbed everything. Staring at it, one would feel like they were being pulled into it as well. Elisa and Bernardo looked at each other in confusion, but Bobby nodded slowly, his mouth ever so slightly agape. I see, you get uncuffed, Bernardo. The bird closed his eyes for an instant before stepping forward and taking the key from the handcuffs. He glanced at the pendant the entire time. as he removed them. The werewolf let his shoulders drop with some relief and tucked the necklace back inside his habit. I'm glad this is sorted out, but I'm sorry my answer distracted you from your investigation. The only thing lost was time, I suppose. Now, before Body could finish, a sound and a pair of loud footsteps resonated from somewhere below. The four sprinted downstairs without hesitation. Layla winced as he hit Body's stomach face first, bouncing down to the floor. Body helped her get back up. Sorry, Layla, what happened? It's another corpse in one of the cells. Body deflated and was inside his head. So soon? Damn it. Layla, please take us to the cell. I think I will get going. Good luck, detectives. Layla guided the investigators to a door near the end of the hallway. Alicia walking a few steps behind everyone else. She already perceived the iron-like smell in the air. When a few people were still in the dormitory started coming out of their cells, including Layla's fellow hunters. Layla, what's going on? Didn't you hear me? Someone's dead. Can you two keep everyone away? Of course, leave it to us. The hunters pushed the door open, revealing a curled-up body in the center of the cell. The red stain expanded from its nape, and a pool of blood had already formed behind it. Body and Bernardo got close to the body with almost mechanical disposition to examine it, while Layla and Alicia stood by the door. Phelan was rubbing the tip of her thumb on her front teeth, while the hybrid stared at the scene with an occasional blink. The skull got cracked open. Damn. Layla, did you see anyone enter this room at all? No, but myself started only a while ago. It's very fresh. Whoever did this escaped only minutes ago. Through there, I would bet. Body nodded toward the cell's window. It's wide open. Bernardo got up to look outside, but there weren't any tracks that he could follow. I believe they should ask the Abbots to move upstairs for their safety. There's no doubt now the killer is targeting him. I used to see this guy at Earl's church. Oscar was his name, I think. Did you know him well, Alicia? She shook her head. No. Well, we have work to do. Layla, please go back. Well, please go look for Santiago. Tell him to look for the Abbottson to move them upstairs as soon as possible. After that, please stop by the infirmary and tell one of my colleagues to come here. All right. And Body, I believe you and your assistant should rest. The crocodile found out Bernardo and got out. Excuse me? They even glanced at the door before stepping closer to whisper at the detective's ears. I couldn't help but notice that your assistant seems off. Yeah, and you have been investigating for many consecutive days, haven't you? I believe you earned a rest. We all took a step back, but Body grabbed him by the shoulder and pulled him close again. His eyes, however, were on Alicia. Bernardo, usually if a police officer who had joined the investigation this late told me this, I would tell him to stuff it. But I have to admit that it doesn't seem like a terrible idea right now, and I'm glad we agree. Bernardo tapped his crocodile shoulder and gave it a tight squeeze. Body squinted at him before breaking free and exiting the cell. Alicia, are you still there? Yeah. Bernardo thinks we should take a break from so much investigating. What do you say we go have an early dinner? Alicia looked down to the side as he nodded. The duo entered their cell with full stomachs. Alicia's eyes seemed to have regained some of their focus, but she still looked somewhat distant. Body sat on his bed and groaned as he lay down. Alicia, what's happening to you? I don't know. Am I acting that strange? You don't seem really here. Do you get what I mean? I guess. Since last night you had this weird look on your face and been screaming out of the blue. Well, do you want me to be honest? She sat down on the opposite bed, staring at her pair of hands on her lap. When we found Giorgio's corpse, how to say it, something came out of him, a white flame. It rose to the ceiling before exploding. Body's brow tightened as Alicia explained. He leaned to the side and brought one hand to his chin. If something else of that nature happened. When we were at Aloysius' cell, I got dizzy and I heard that explosion again. I know how it sounds. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but maybe it had something to do with the abbot's death. Maybe. Alicia looked up, surprised at how seriously Buddy was taking this. The crocodile was now lost in his own thoughts, not even looking at her. Does this mean anything to you? Buddy's mouth hung open for an instant, then he turned to Alicia, spoke in a deeper tone than usual. A tone that made her nostalgic. I need to think about this. You should rest, Alicia. But from now on, if something like this happens again, I want you to tell me, understood? I don't get it, but fine. Alicia opened her bed and got inside. Although the light was still on, it didn't take long for drowsiness to settle in. She hadn't noticed how exhausted she was. So, every time a murder happens, Alicia sees an explosion happening. Like some form lifts out of the body as a second murder victim and somehow explodes. But every time somebody gets murdered, she goes through this. She goes through an explosion, and she's the only one who sees it and experiences it. Everybody else don't. So, I don't know what this could mean. And plus, there was a voice right before the second explosion happened. There was a voice that said, "Let's help him." So, I don't know. This voice is either I don't know if this voice is trying to help an investigation, or if it's against an investigation, or it's neutral with its own interests. I don't know what this voice is. So there are a lot of questions. So, every time somebody gets murdered, everything becomes drowsy to Alicia. Everything gets closed in, or gets smaller, and then an explosion happens. Only she experiences it. I think as we continue into the mystery, we'll figure out something about what the explosives mean and why only Alicia sees them. Could it be that she has the power, some kind of power or capabilities that the other people in the mystery don't? And I think back in the office, when they found a corpse and they were going to the office, they checked everywhere and they were about to leave the office, but Alicia wanted to stay, look at the ceiling, and she saw something on the ceiling, and it got her drowsy, and it caused an explosion. Some pictures and something was moving in a little tiny section of the ceiling. Could it be that something lifted out from that dead body in the office as well? Still a lot that we don't know about, but Best thing we can do is to continue with the mystery to see if we get any new answers. So that's it for chapter 1 Nerus for now. We will continue next time. All the information for the game is in the description box below. Thanks for watching. Bye.